Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Angels. The Greater Los Angeles chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists presents the 44th Annual Distinguished Journalists Awards. Established to honor journalists who exemplified a tradition of excellence over the course of their careers. This year, we are proud to honor 6 special individuals for their outstanding work and dedication. The Southern California News Group's Tom Bray, Maria L. Laganga of the LA Times, KNX's Diane Thompson, KTLA's Vance Scott, journalist and essayist Lynell George, and the First Amendment Coalition's David Snyder. Our Master of Ceremonies is KNX Radio's Frank Motek. But first, here's SPJ LA's president, David Zahniser.
Hello, I'm David Zahniser. I'm the president of the Greater Los Angeles chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 44th Annual SPJ LA Distinguished Journalists Awards Ceremony. This is our 86th year as SPJ's chapter in Los Angeles, and I don't really know how else to say it, but this event is not exactly what we had planned at the start of 2020. We wanted to celebrate our 6 extraordinary award winners in style at the Omni Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. I wanted to raise a glass to our colleagues, and instead, here we are in yet another Zoom call. But even in these diminished circumstances, we have so much to be proud of. We've watched our talented fellow journalists do amazing work covering a global pandemic, an economic downturn, a historic protest movement sparked by horrific police brutality, and of course, an insane election year. In Southern California and across the United States, we've seen journalists step up as they face tear gas, rubber bullets, and sheriff's deputies seeking to make an unlawful arrest. SPJ LA has been there with you, demanding that courtrooms remain accessible, that journalists be kept safe, and that authorities properly investigate mistreatment of reporters simply doing their jobs. I would encourage everyone watching this, if you're not a member, please join us. Join us in this fight. Join us in creating programming for our colleagues in this profession. SPJ-LA has also been helping to bring in the next generation of journalists by providing 6 scholarships each year to students looking to enter the profession. Those scholarships get a boost from members like you and from the people who so generously sponsored this event. I'd like to thank each of them now. The Los Angeles Times, KTLA Channel 5, KNX News Radio, the LA chapter of AAJA, the Asian American Journalists Association. And I'd like to give a very special thank you to the Southern California News Group. Finally, before our event gets underway, I really want to recognize SPJ board member Sarah Favett, who has worked to organize this award ceremony not once, but twice. First as a live banquet in March, and now as a video event. Sarah gets the job done again and again. I'd also like to thank all the board members who pitched in on this, helping in so many different ways. So our MC doesn't really need any introduction, particularly for those of us who rely on KNX radio for news. Frank Motek is the voice of business news in LA, the host of Motek on Money, and the financial news reporter for KNX News Radio. Frank is also a past SPJ distinguished journalist and a past board president. We're delighted to have him and his instantly recognizable voice emceeing this event. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you very much, President David Zahniser, and thank you for your leadership during this unprecedented pandemic year 2020. Folks, those who do the job of journalism well need to be mesmerizing storytellers, resourceful investigators, dogged fact checkers, and nimble interviewers. The 5 journalists we honor tonight, along with an attorney fighting to protect the First Amendment, have all of these talents and more. They work in print, radio, television, and digital media to bring us the news that matters. And they face off against those who would deny the truth as fake news or try to wriggle out of consequences. Tonight, we have a chance to thank them for inspiring us and for maintaining a standard of integrity and excellence and a quality of storytelling that is worth fighting for. Now on to the awards. The Distinguished Journalist Award goes to members of the profession who demonstrate exceptional news judgment, a strong sense of ethics, and a passion for getting the story right. It's important to also note that it's awarded for a tradition of excellence, a body of work that stands above others rather than any one story. Our first award for print journalism at an outlet with circulation under 90,000 goes to distinguished journalist Tom Bray. Tom is senior editor of Southern California News Group, Los Angeles County Properties. Here tonight to present Tom's award is Vanessa Franco, Digital Director of Entertainment and Features for the Southern California News Group.
Hi, my name's Vanessa Franco. I'm the Digital Director of Entertainment and Features at the Southern California News Group. I am so honored today to introduce you to Tom Bray, someone who has not only been my direct boss over the years, but a mentor and someone I consider a very close friend. In the last 14 years I've worked with Tom, I've learned many things from him, including the 7 life lessons in journalism from Tom Bray I'll share with you today. Number 1, journalism is a calling, not a job. Anyone who's worked with Tom knows that he is a bit like the North Star of the newsroom, especially when those once-in-a-lifetime stories happen. Somehow we keep having a lot of those, whether it be the Christopher Dorner manhunt, whether it's December 2nd terror attack, or even now during the pandemic, which is why I'm talking to you here on the screen and not in a ballroom. Tom is always there. Tom is always thinking 3 steps ahead. He's also giving us what we need to inform the readers that day. That brings me to life lesson number 2. What's best for the reader? I hear Tom's voice in my head saying this pretty much every day, even though I don't talk to Tom every day at work anymore. Put the audience first, no matter the platform. Number 3, don't ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. Years ago, when Tom was my boss, I remember at the time we had lost some staffers and his boss wanted our team to do more. Back then we thought we were really cut to the bone. Tom told her that he wasn't going to put more work on his people, he would do it himself. And he did. He wrote stories, he wrote headlines, he designed pages. I'd never seen a senior editor do that. And I knew that if the time came that I would become an editor, I wanted to do that same thing. To that end, Tom kind of tricked me into becoming an editor. And that leads me to life lesson number 4. You know you're ready to be a leader when helping others grow and get better becomes your priority over your own success. Tom had been trying to get me to take on more. I was perfectly happy being a pop culture and music reporter, but I was thinking maybe one day. And I remember sitting in Tom's office and I asked him, how do you know? And that's what he told me. When that success of helping someone else, that's what success looks like to you. Life lesson number 5. Don't present someone with a problem unless you also have possible solutions. Tom is really great about this. If you have a problem and you're thinking about it up front, when you go and present the problem, you're going to hit on a better solution immediately. I would also like to point out for all the reporters out there, this also works if your editor perhaps is driving into the office and has a great story idea that's actually not so great. If you give them a better story idea, they will take it and run with it and they will be so happy, and then you get to write the story you want. Number 6, don't forget to have fun because this is the greatest gig in the world. Finally, number 7, when in doubt, add an exclamation point. If you've ever received an email from Tom, there's an exclamation point involved more often than not, sometimes in the subject line. Embrace that enthusiasm, whether in your email or your attitude. Tom, congratulations. I wish we could all be together tonight. Thank you for everything you've done for me personally and also for journalism in Southern California and beyond. Best wishes.
Tom Bray, the stage is yours.
Vanessa, that was wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Bray, and I'd like to say sincerely, 2 minutes? I only get 2 minutes to say thank you? Come on. Okay, I can do this. I'll be the best editor I can here. I've worked it down to one word. The word is blessed. This is how I feel to have been selected for the SPJ LA Distinguished Journalist Honor this year. I'm humbled to join the amazing list of past honorees. I expected to accept this award in a room full of news folks who just had 3 cocktails. But I'm just as pleased to be speaking to you today, safer at home style, in a room with 3 dogs, 2 cats, and 1 mortgage. We say all the time at Southern California News Group these days, we haven't had a slow news day since February. Even amid this current torrent of headlines, I feel blessed to do the news. I feel blessed to have been able to work in tandem with an array of talented, focused, diverse, passionate journalists. In Visalia, in Bellflower, in Palm Springs, in San Bernardino, in Springfield, Missouri, in Riverside, in the San Fernando Valley, in the South Bay, in Long Beach, in Pasadena, and some other places. I consider this award a team honor because journalism is a team sport. I've had stellar teammates, lots of them. I am sorry I cannot thank them all by name because, well, 2 minutes. Newsrooms aren't just teams, they're families. And I feel blessed to have been a member of many of those families and morphed in 40 some years in the business from the annoying little brother and family to the doddering grandpa. Newsroom families are like no other workplace family. Honestly, sometimes what we do is tough. I have to tell you, I never want to work another bus crash or mass shooting or terror attack or pandemic. But newsroom families, folks who come together to lift each other up, sometimes hold each other up, are how we tell the stories of such deep heartbreak with focus, but also with empathy and compassion. I feel blessed to have had many splendid mentors. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't mention my old boss and dear friend, the late Ray Griffith. His words, sometimes of wisdom, sometimes of utter exasperation, will be in my bloodstream forever. I also feel blessed to be able to work with Frank Pine, my current boss, a man of immeasurable skill and remarkable kindness. I do feel blessed to be able to do this thing called journalism for a long time now. Folks who know me, like Vanessa, have heard me call this God's work. I mean it. I consider myself to be blessed to work alongside folks who, when you refer to this job as a calling, give you that little nod back. I feel blessed to have done it. Hell, they even paid me for it. You know, I never officially got word of who put me up for this award, but thank you nonetheless to all of you. An SPJ board member shared with me that when I was discussed as a nominee, that the common mantra was, that guy works hard. If that's true, that'd be an epitaph to be proud of. I've been able to work hard because of my incredibly patient wife, Jamie, who endured countless won't be home for dinners and got to work this weekends with grace, humor, and the occasional smirk. I'm also blessed to have 2 daughters, Charlotte and Madeline, who despite he's back at the computer and, is that his phone again? Moments, they love their pop. I feel blessed to be a member of SPJ. Thank you, SPJ and SPJ LA, for supporting all those great journalists out there who do this thing amid the most challenging of times. And again, sincere thanks to you for this honor. And above all, I feel blessed that when people ask me what I do for a living, I have been able to say for parts of 5 decades, I'm a journalist. What a blessing.
Thank you very much, Tom, and again, congratulations. Our second award also goes to a print journalist at an outlet with circulation in excess of 90,000. Our honoree is Maria Laganga, a Metro reporter for the Los Angeles Times. And joining us now to present Maria's award is Hector Becerra, city editor for the Los Angeles Times and past distinguished journalist honoree.
Hi, my name is Hector Becerra. I'm the city editor for the Los Angeles Times. More importantly, at the moment, I am Maria Laganga's editor. When I found out that Maria was going to come back to the LA Times in 2018, I did something that was very unusual for me. I absolutely insisted on editing Maria. I had never met Maria. We had both been at the LA Times. You know, for many years, I'd been at the LA Times. I've been at the LA Times now about 20 years. She'd been here on and off for about 30 years. I'd never met her, but I knew of her reputation. She had a reputation as just a do-everything writer. Beautiful writer, covered everything from mass shootings and the trials of mass shooters, presidential campaigns, the Loma Prieta earthquake, where she spent 2 weeks at the corner telling the stories of the dead and the missing. But I felt like I had to edit her. I wanted to edit a legend, an LA Times legend, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I got to, and I was not disappointed. This was an exquisite writer that I was getting the honor to edit. But beyond that, she was a magnificent mentor to young reporters. She essentially became like another editor, a calming presence, someone who could teach reporters how to write, from the young to the not so young. When the pandemic happened, it didn't surprise me at all that she was just someone who people could lean on, to calm their nerves about the journalism that they were about to embark on, to improve their writing, their reporting, and sometimes just she was just a voice of support, and that includes for myself. So I thank SPJ for recognizing Maria. She is truly someone that we all look up to, not only as a journalist, and what a journalist she is, but also as a person, and that is sometimes an underrated part of being a great journalist, is just being a great colleague. So congratulations, Maria, this is very much deserved.
Maria Laganga, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Hector. I really appreciate the kind words. And I want to thank everybody at SPJ for this honor. I'm grateful and I'm humbled. I'd feel that way any year, but this year especially. I know it's an award for 2019, but we're gathered here at the end of 2020, a time that has been difficult for the world, for our country, for our industry, and for my wonderful newsroom. So I want to accept this award on behalf of my colleagues at the Los Angeles Times, the women and men, veterans and interns who amaze me every time I open the paper. We've covered COVID and systemic racism, chaos in our country and at our newspaper with grace and with incredible talent. Reporters like Haley Branson Potts, who shines a light on the hidden corners of rural California, and Brittany Mejia, who's covered the human side of the pandemic with stories of everyday Californians. Gustavo Arellano, who brings a singular voice to our pages. SPJ's own David Zanheiser, who holds our local government accountable, which in its own self is a very difficult job. Matt Hamilton, Harriet Ryan, Paul Pringle, who brought so many powerful people to justice. Photographers like Francine Orr, who teaches me something about journalism and being a human being every time I go out on assignment with her. Editors like Hector, who's a champion for all of us in the newsroom. And Alice Short, who along with Steve Padilla is a champion for some of the stories we care about the most. Angel Jennings, who has the important job of helping diversify our paper's ranks. And my wonderful husband, Keith Harmon, whose support has allowed me to do the work I love. So thank you very much, SPJ. Thank you, my newspaper, and thank you, all of you.
Maria, congratulations to you. And now a category near and dear to my own heart, and that is news radio here in Los Angeles. Diane Thompson recently retired from KNX 1070, where she spent 34 years as both a news reporter and anchor. Here now to present Diane's award is KNX 1070 editor Greg Habel, who is also a past Distinguished Journalist honoree.
Greg Habel here with KNX. And I want to thank SPJ for Diane Thompson's Distinguished Journalist Award. I think it's a matter of trust. Trust and everything else follows from there. When Diane was in the field as a reporter, I learned that I could absolutely trust her. Her judgment, what she told me, if other news outlets, if other wire services had said something different, I always went with Diane. Straight up, matter of trust. Also, her instincts on a story were spot on. If she said something didn't feel right to her, we'd attack it sideways. We'd question what we were being told, and we'd take it apart until it made sense to us. Diane covered just about anything you could think of. Earthquakes, fires, bank robberies, corruption, celebrations. And when it was applicable, she'd get both sides of the story. Both sides, that's what we do. Along the way, she smoked out enterprise stories, original content. Then she takes all of this and moves behind the mic in the anchor studio. Now we have 50,000 watts worth of believability, credibility, and need to know for the KNX audience. 5 hours at a time, as opposed to one 60-second report at a time. trust. It all comes down to trust. Anyone who's met Diane probably knows she's pretty easygoing, easy to get along with, but never confuse that with submissiveness or anything like that. She knew exactly what she was doing. She let her audience know it. She let me know it. If something was wrong with the air product I was trying to put on, she'd hit the intercom and let me know. So we have experience, credibility, and trust. She made my job easier in the sense that I could take it to the bank when she was on the air. Easier as an editor, producer, just I could take it to the bank. Also, she's one of the best site editors I've ever met. This is valuable on a daily basis, but also especially valuable and critical during breaking news. Made a difference. You know, I'll never forget the first interstate bank building fire. At the time, the first interstate bank building was the tallest building in LA. So we get word there might be a high-rise fire going on. I get Diane rolling, and it turns out it might be the first interstate bank. So as it turns out, just about the time she's rolling up on the scene, I'm communicating with her, and I said, well, I can't confirm this, Diane. And she says, well, I can. I'm looking right at it. And then she proceeds to fight off a cop so she can get on the air and get the story on the air. You know, thank you, SPJ. Thank you, Diane Thompson.
Diane Thompson, the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much, Greg. You're so sweet. It just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy that you said those nice things about me. I just doing my job, a job that I loved and have loved since I was a child. I hope it wasn't fake news, is all I can say. I want to thank the SPJ board members who deem me worthy of being a distinguished journalist. This is a tremendous honor for me, and I feel privileged to be included with Tom and Maria, Vance, Linnell, and David, whose accomplishments speak for themselves. It really had me speechless when I received that phone call from Natalie, and the award itself is so beautiful. Thank you again. Since I retired last year, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my 40 years in the broadcast news business, especially while combing through my tapes and reporter notebooks for the KNX 100-year anniversary celebration. I've met and interviewed a variety of people, politicians, celebrities, and even weirdos. And it's also been my privilege to feature more than 400 amazing KNX heroes. Of course, I've also had fire retardant dropped on my head, and I've been pulled over by the LAPD because they thought the dilapidated KNX news van was a stolen vehicle. But the reality is, I've been reporting the news since I was 6 years old when an urgent TV news bulletin about the Kennedy assassination interrupted my favorite show, The Three Stooges. I ran to tell my mother, and she didn't believe me. When Mom followed me to the TV room, the news bulletin was gone, and of course, the Three Stooges were back on the screen. My mother looked at me and said, Diane, it's not nice to make things up. I've been trying very hard ever since then to make sure that people believe me. Now, when my parents died, they left behind a treasure trove of items I wrote as a child, including a neighborhood newspaper and letters from camp. I had no idea that they had saved those things, but I'm glad they did. And I want to share one of my earliest news reports. Summer 1970, Camp Davis, New Mexico. Dear family, I received the Kool-Aid in my cabin and I will drink it tonight. Monday night, the counselors saw flashlights down by the stream at 12 midnight. It wasn't any of the counselors, and campers aren't allowed out. And the next morning, there were horse prints down by the stream. The next night, we were gone on a camp out, and our counselor, Lynn, stayed in cabin number 4. She went in to go to the bathroom, and the minute she sat down, she heard scratching on the window. She jumped up and got the head counselor. Coach D, Coach Benny, and Liz came running when the whistle blew. Coach D shot his shotgun, and whatever it was ran off, and they heard a car. Cabin 1 and 2 slept through the whole thing. Nothing else has happened. Love, Diane. I've refined my style over the years, but I still tell it like it is, and I probably scared the bejesus out of my parents with that letter. Again, I want to thank the Society of Professional Journalists for this incredible honor. It means the world to me, and a big thank you to my KNX colleagues for putting up with me for all those years.
Thank you very much, Diane Thompson. And again, congratulations to you. I have to say it was an honor working with you for 25 years at the station. And again, congratulations from all of us here. Our other distinguished broadcast journalist is Vance Scott, who is celebrating his 25th anniversary as assignment manager at KTLA. Now to present Vance Scott with his award is KTLA's Vice President and News Director, Jason Ball.
Vance Scott deserves this honor for many reasons, least of all his longevity. He's been working in the TV news business in Los Angeles for more than 50 years. Think about that. He started at KNXT. For those young people in the room, that's what KCBS used to be called. In 1968, his first big story was the Robert Kennedy assassination at the Ambassador Hotel. Like many of us in this town, Vance has worked at multiple stations. In the 80s, he worked at KBC, and then in the 90s, he went over to KCAL to help launch the Prime 9 News, and then 25 years ago, he came to work here at KTLA. Now, I've only been at the station for 12 years, but I can tell you Vance has been an integral part of the success and growth of the TV station in that time. He's an encyclopedia of Los Angeles news. He is the Google of Los Angeles news. There's not a story that he can't talk about, whether it's the Hillside Strangler or Daryl Gates and the Rampart Division consent decree or the Chicano moratorium. There's nothing he can't talk about. And get him going on the mountains and the beaches of California. He can tell you where to hike, where to surf, and where to ski, and when to do all of those things. He knows it all. Thank you to SPJ LA for honoring Vance and recognizing his contributions to our business and to the community at large. Thank you, Vance, for helping me and teaching me all of the amazing things about our city and our region and our state all along the way. Most importantly, I want to thank Mrs. Scott. Vance and Kim have been married for 35 years. They raised 2 daughters, and she put up with this crazy business called TV news. And that's a remarkable feat. Our business is not just a business, it's a lifestyle, and our spouses have to be understanding that things change and breaking news happens and plans change. And so I thank her and all the spouses for understanding this crazy life that we all lead. Seriously, Vance, KTLA's success is your success. Thank you for everything. I can't imagine anyone more deserving of this honor. Congratulations.
Vance Scott, the stage is yours.
Thanks for the kind words, Jason. I think the award should be going to my wife. She's put up with me for 35 years and all my shenanigans and rants and raves. So I think she's worthy of some kind of special recognition. But actually, I got interested in journalism because I was really bad at math, like most journalists. I spent 4 years of high school in introduction to algebra, as far as I ever got. But I did like to write. So I started writing, and by the time I was a senior, I'd become the editor of the high school newspaper. My dad, who was a cameraman at CBS, one day said, you should go apply for a job up at CBS. They hire young kids up there to pick up the film and take the reporters out to assignments and stories. And I'm thinking, yeah, a 17-year-old high school newspaper editor, I'm going to go to work at CBS, they're going to hire me. So a couple of weeks after I'd been working there, Robert Kennedy came to Los Angeles for the California primary election. And we know what happened that night. So I was sent to the Good Samaritan Hospital where they'd taken Kennedy. And an influx of media from around the world had set up in the hospital gymnasium, waiting word. Outside, thousands of people had gathered, kind of vigil, waiting some word on his fate and condition, praying, hoping for a miracle. And about 2 o'clock that morning, Frank Mankiewicz, the press deputy for the Kennedy family, announced to the world that Robert Francis Kennedy had died. The scene outside was pandemonium. People just collapsed in the streets. They were wailing, crying, sobbing hysterically on the ground. And it was the most poignant, emotional scene I can ever remember. 17-year-old kid driving the film back to the television station that night. And if I had any doubt about what I wanted to do professionally in my career after that night, I lost all certainty after that. I knew this was, being part of an epic world event like this was incredible, just absolutely incredible. After that, it was the 1971 Sylmar earthquake, Patty Hearst kidnapping, if anybody still remembers that, the SLA shootout, 53rd and Central, that was intense. O.J. Simpson, Rodney King, the LA riots that followed, the Northridge earthquake, floods, firestorms, and too many Malibu brush fires to count or remember. But nothing compares with the events of this past year. This past year has been, who could have ever imagined what was about to come in 2020? So after 53 years in television news, covering just about every epic event that has happened, 53 years, 25 years at KTLA, I am hanging up my spurs and I'm putting on the flip-flops this year. So the timing on this comes at, couldn't be more perfect. It's the absolute perfect 30 at the end of the story. My career complete, and to leave with such an honor as this is truly humbling. I sincerely am so grateful and appreciative for this opportunity to be recognized for this, for the honor. Thank you.
Congratulations, Vance Scott, for all of your great work over so many years. And our final Distinguished Journalist Award tonight in the digital category goes to Linnell George. Linnell is a journalist and essayist. Her new book, A Handful of Earth, A Handful of Sky, The World That Made Octavia E. Butler, was published by Angel City Press this year. Joseph Wakely Lynch, editor of LMU Magazine, is here tonight to introduce Linnell.
I'm Joe Wakely Lynch, editor of LMU Magazine. About 2 years ago, Linnell George and I were having lunch at a small Chinese restaurant in a one-block strip mall in Monterey Park. If you know Linnell, you might well say, of course you were. A friend invited Linnell, me, and several others. And fortunately for me, Linnell and I sat out side by side at a big round table full of sweet and pungent entrees. We talked that day about Los Angeles, how the sun will never rise on a day when the conversation about LA's identity, meaning, and symbolic status will finally be settled. LA is a bottomless well for writers, and its significance attracts them like gold in the Sierras. We agreed then that there are only a few U.S. cities of which that can be said. New York is one, probably San Francisco, and New Orleans, which to me is LA's only rival in complexity and cultural importance, and a city, no surprise, that Linnell also knows intimately. Linnell, an alumna of Loyola Marymount University, is a regular contributor to LMU Magazine. We're unusual among university magazines for making Place, our location in Los Angeles, a character in LMU's story, along with academics, service, and justice. To me, Linnell is one of LA's essential writers. Her No Crystal Stare, published in 1992, still is one of 3 most essential books for understanding this urban, suburban semi-desert. When I think of Linnell's writing, I think of her choice of subject matter and the reflections that she shares about her topics. But just as striking is how her writing is full of people, not just their comments or quotes, but also her conversations with them. Linnell writes about people throughout this metropolis, and she also writes about the Linnell who interacts with them, what that Linnell says to them, as well as what they say to that Linnell. Her ability to seamlessly and eloquently be both observer and participant in writing this city's life is one of the reasons why her work has always struck me as utterly insightful and utterly personal. Thank you.
Linnell George, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Joe. That was quite moving. Just absorbing that. And thank you. I have to thank my very first editor who hired me as a summer news intern, just on the basis of a college thesis I had written about changing downtown Los Angeles. And this is the 1980s chapter of Changing Downtown Los Angeles. Had no idea that I would be watching downtown Los Angeles change for 30 more years. But he trusted something in it, the pieces that he read, and something in me. And before too long, I was just hooked, chasing questions and chasing answers. So much has occurred in what seems like such a short period of time. And not just with the technical advancements and the news cycle shifts we've all had to keep pace with. Los Angeles has transformed dramatically, and two, how we move across it. In my time as a reporter, I've covered urban unrests and earthquakes, fires, OJ, and 9/11, and now COVID. And in certain respects, reporting on and around this ever-shifting city made me want to stay. It confirmed my commitment to this place, even when I was offered really fancy jobs away. I wanted to be here. I didn't want to miss anything, and I wanted to tell this city's story. The city became my subject. Journalism has kept my world big. It's kept it open, and it has required a certain limberness. I had to frequently grow and adapt in the moment, learn on my feet. Bottom line, whether it is in words or images, on the page or on screens, I am always storytelling. Even though we're now situated in virtual spaces, I want to thank my colleagues who, over all of these years, remain confidants, sounding boards, inspirations, and most of all, family. And most importantly, I thank the people, those sources who time and again open up their lives and tell me their stories and trust me to get it right. Thank you so much for this huge honor. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations once again, Linnell George. And we're also honoring one non-journalist this evening. The chapter's Freedom of Information Award will be given to David Snyder, Executive Director of the First Amendment Coalition. Joining us tonight to present the FOI Award to David Snyder is Peter Scheer, the First Amendment Coalition's board president.
Good evening. I am Peter Scheer. It is my honor and privilege tonight to introduce my good friend and colleague, David Snyder, the Executive Director of the First Amendment Coalition, on whom you have wisely chosen to bestow the Freedom of Information Award for this year. Quote, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, close quote. These dozen words from the Constitution's First Amendment are holy text for journalists. They express the radical idea that government has no business telling you what you can and cannot publish, whether online, in print, or over the air. But it is just an idea. The mere presence of the words in the nation's founding document does not make it so. After all, dictatorships around the world pretend to abide by similar language in their own constitutions, even as they jail journalists who dare to write stories that the dictators don't like. The idea of free speech and a free press becomes a true limitation on government power because and only because a few individuals passionately committed to the rule of law expertly use the tools of our legal system to persuade courts, to provide protections, and to then issue orders to implement those protections. These are our First Amendment heroes. David Snyder is one of them. When San Francisco police broke down the door of a freelance journalist to search for the name of a confidential source, David organized a successful and overwhelming legal response before multiple judges. The upshot? Across California, judges have now learned that they must say no when asked to approve a search warrant for evidence belonging to a journalist. And what about you, the journalists of California? When a city withholds records that you have requested, or when a judge tells you not to print a statement made in open court, or when you receive a subpoena for evidence about a news story, who are you going to call? Well, David Snyder is who. I'm proud to present to you now David Snyder, your First Amendment hero.
David Snyder, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Peter, for the kind words. And thank you to SPJ LA so very much for recognizing my organization's work. It's a tremendous honor for us. We've been around for 32 years, and a lot of that time has been spent toiling in the fields of obscurity and not a little futility. Doing a good job of advocating for access to government records is a bit like being a good hitter in baseball. We necessarily fail far more often than we succeed. The odds are just against us. So this award means a lot to us. But I have to confess something. I feel like a bit of an imposter in accepting this award. The First Amendment Coalition undeniably did a tremendous amount of important work this past year. We fought the good fight, and we were successful more often than not. We helped a freelance journalist in San Francisco fight back against an outrageous raid by SFPD. We helped lead the fight for access to police misconduct records up and down the state. We worked hard day in and day out to ensure that journalists and others can hold their government accountable. But I feel like I can really take very little credit for that success. FACT's staff has really been the driving force. Glenn Smith, our litigation director, Ginny LaRoe, our outreach and programs director, Shireen Tagarobi, our legal fellow, and Deb Fruin, who holds it all together. Perhaps even more important than our amazing staff, FACT relies on a deep bench of experienced lawyers who don't work for our organization, but who donate freely of their time to help us in our fight. It's impossible to single out all the lawyers that make FACT's work so powerful, but I do want to single out a few just from 2019. Tanaya Rodewald and James Chadwick for their smarts and tenacity in helping ensure that police misconduct records saw the light of day. Tom Burke and Duffy Carolyn for their work in both defending freelance journalist Brian Carmody and in making sure the raid on Brian was exposed to public scrutiny. Michael Risher for fighting for transparency from the Attorney General of our state, and Carl Olson for bringing the fight for transparency to the city halls of San Francisco and San Jose. These incredible lawyers allow FACT to project its power far beyond what we would otherwise be able to do. And for that, we're so grateful. To close, I just want to remind all of my fellow awardees and all journalists that FACT is here for you. Call on us. We're here to make your work deeper, better, richer. We're here to help you hold the powerful to account. Thank you.
David Snyder, thank you. And again, congratulations to you. Well, what an inspiring evening. I think the message is quite clear. Even in today's challenging environment, journalism remains a way to change not only the way we perceive the world, but to change the world itself. We need to continue to support those who speak truth to power and remain committed to accuracy, journalistic ethics, and stories that make readers stop, look, and listen. Congratulations again to all of tonight's honorees. And again, we would like to give a special thank you to Southern California News Group. On behalf of the Los Angeles chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists, I'd like to again thank you very much for celebrating the success of our honorees tonight and for continuing to support local journalism. Thank you very much and good night.